It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question. And it seems actually that we've received a number of different viewer questions and experiences that have basically been in the form of triangulation or smear campaigns that they are experiencing at the hands of a covert narcissist. So in other words, behind their back, they are being triangulated. Triangulated basically means when someone is pitting you against another, or they are trying to sort of recruit others, strengthen numbers as a way to kind of weaken you or make you look less than attractive, good, worthwhile in a relationship. So a smear campaign, meaning they're speaking negatively about you behind your back. Oftentimes these are false allegations and there's not a lot of fact. But the covert narcissist always, as well as the overt narcissist as well, they want to keep a sense of power and control in relationship at all times. They want to be able to, keep the moving parts under their control. As we know with a narcissist, they have an insatiable and unhealthy need to have power and control and manipulation over others. So oftentimes this results in a manipulation tactic such as triangulation or a smear campaign. In other words, they're sort of talking dirty about you behind your back. Less than attractive statements, put downs, things that oftentimes are meant that are not fact-checked by the other observer. In other words, the covert narcissist wants to have a lot of adulation, support, and admiration from others. They are all about the adulation, or sort of where you're getting into the excessive flattery. And oftentimes the people who are wanting to be in a covert narcissist state will seek others who will give them adulation, excessive praise, and admiration. In other words, it's the you're so talented. They will kind of fluff it up. They will go into, tell me more about your travels or your business, or, your what you just purchased, or your car, or tell me all about your family. I mean, they will really sort of, they will seek people who will acquiesce or suck up to them. A healthy person does not need this admiration and adulation. Yes, of course it's great to be recognized, acknowledged, and validated, but once again, the issue and the main problem with this is if you've been seeking this or been in an unhealthy pattern where you've been sort of propped up by the feedback of others or an external locus of control, that eventually puts you on very shaky ground. If you're seeking always the adulation, admiration, or sort of that outcome of others, because that means you can have a lot of good days, you can have a lot of bad days. So the way to lessen your good days and bad days is to not try to control the outcome, not to try to control or have undue force or effect on, it's kind of like, dressing up to impress. Either you dress for yourself, you work for yourself, you have your own set of standards and values that drive you, and if others like it, great. If not, no problem. But your focus is not based on the outcome or admiration or to impress others, So it's a very, very important distinction for you to understand. Not only for yourself, but understand how a covert narcissist works. Now, a narcissist will oftentimes work for that external locus of control. In other words, and use manipulation tactics to make sure that this is embedded or imprinted in the dynamic of a relationship. In other words, they will attract people who will give them this unquestioned, unwavering, unerring loyalty, unquestioned adulation and support. Adulation meaning sort of an excessive amount of flattery, an excessive amount of attention. In other words, it's always all about them. the people who a narcissist will get along with will someone who will like prop them up, and not on a genuine manner, but really, I don't want to use the term suck up, but that's really what they do. And it becomes quite transparent. It becomes quite fake. It becomes very much a tactic of manipulation or a tool of manipulation, which has to be thought about. You know, it's the analysis paralysis. In other words, they have to engage in that sort of dynamic. The relationship has to have a tinge of that feeling in order for it to stay afloat. And so the issue with the smear campaign is that the narcissist, who's, you know, loves to have unwavering control, unwavering domination, will then, you know, use the others in the family, the gang, the workplace, to go ahead and recruit numbers, recruit support from people who will not question their opinions, not question their values. In other words, it's the strength in numbers sort of ideology that if they can go ahead and then talk bad about you, in that same token, it kills two birds with one stone, meaning that they are able to get more supporters on their side and then more against you. So every time, and this especially with social media, can be like running like wildfire. I mean, you can paste, you can post comments, you can do videos, whatever it is. There's a lot of this bashing going on. And, when you get into all this sort of negative force, negative talk, it's only going to, become sort of, disingenuine, meaning false, fake. It's meant to not be genuine, and those people then will, just sort of unquestionably follow this covert narcissist. They won't seek you out. They won't ask for the real deal. They won't befriend you because they want to keep the status intact of associating with the covert narcissist. The covert narcissist relies on this unquestioned status. In other words, they're the patriarch. They are the matriarch. They are the leader. They are the one with the goods, the juice, the DNA, the one who has it all. And anyone who goes up against them or is trying to question them will unequivocally, within that same dynamic, be a target of the smear campaign or the negative talk. And so it's very important for you to not be intimidated by this experience. They are banking on your being intimidated and then freaking out, being in a highly reactive state. And then again, your locus of control then becomes based on what is outside of you versus what is inside. It is very important for you to understand this dynamic, this differentiating feature, and to understand the true weight, the true power, empowerment, and your ticket basically to freedom is not being intimidated, controlled by this outside measure, this outside data, this outside smear campaign. Because then if you are, you're always in a highly reactive state. You're always, reactive meaning taken off of your base and your ability to respond. You're not able to think clearly if you're always in a highly agitated, fear-based, intimidated, reactive state. You see, they throw you off your center, and that's how you feel that you are then being controlled. You're living unhappy, unfulfilled. You feel that you're not on your right path. You feel that your life is, unhappy. You are always reacting rather than responding. You're always in the passenger seat versus the driver's seat. You're feeling life is out of control versus in control and meaningful and purpose-driven. So the smear campaign is to get you into, it's to, again, once again, it's sort of, sort of dimming others' lights to make their light shine brighter. So number one, if this occurs, just understand the reasoning why this tactic is engaged in, And then furthermore, it is to understand that you do not need to participate in this by being reactive and fearful. Realize and take stock that it is for what it is, and then know your own truth. Know what you've seen, heard, felt, and understood. Don't be intimidated by this, and get off of the social media platforms where this is engaging, because otherwise you're just spinning your wheels. You're wasting your precious energy being unhappy, fearful, afraid, caught in the fight or flight, the intimidation. Do not be intimidated by this. Their fear has no meaning to you. It's nothing meant to be a driver really to your unhappiness. It keeps you in the negative orderly direction thinking, and it's oftentimes very difficult to set boundaries to this feeling, especially for people who have been embroiled in these types of relationships that have gone on for a long period of time. Because their boundary violation has been so annihilated, they don't know where to begin setting their boundaries, saying that it's okay to say no to the fear, say no to being intimidated, saying no to the inferiority that is thrust upon you. You're not used to that self-discipline. You're not used to the emotional discipline. You're not used to the physical discipline. You're used to sort of running on this emotional automatic pilot that's keeping you engaging in all the other behaviors, thoughts, feelings, decisions, and choices that have been based on the reactive state. So always checking the social media, always trying to keep up with this, that, and the other thing. These high maintenance relationships, especially on Facebook. We had a great viewer comment that it is like fake book. So realize that oftentimes these relationships can become extremely high maintenance. People who participate in that, I personally do not believe in Facebook. I do not like the format. I don't like the structure. I don't like that setting. I don't like that platform. I believe it does more to take people's self-esteem down than it does to actually build. Once again, it's based on that, let me take 30 pictures and I'm going to post the best one. I mean, and same thing I feel with the Instagram. Now those, platforms I'm sure are doing wonderful things for people. This is not to bash that, but what I'm stating is that oftentimes those can be platforms where we see a lot of the smear campaign and the triangulation going on. It is the constant, pitting of people against each other, this sort of preying on people's and exploiting their competitiveness. There is, oftentimes, and so they're putting you on very unbalanced, rocky ground, and so you find that you can never really sort of create a foundation for yourself emotionally, physically, psychologically, or spiritually, where you're able to say, I am strong, I am solid, I know what's up, and I know what's best for me, and it's okay if it does not involve other people right now. It's okay if it does not involve this one other specific person. It's okay if it does not involve catering or acquiescing to the needs, requirements, or supply of this covert narcissist. I'm going to create the boundaries by saying no now. I'm going to create the boundaries by stopping my negative orderly direction feeling in this direction right now. I'm going to stop the guilt. I'm going to stop the fear. I'm going to stop the reactiveness. I'm going to stop the adulation. And I'm not going to worry or pay attention to or heed the behaviors of others that are caught up in this whirlwind cycle of adulation, flattery, and acquiescing to the triangulation. I'm not going to worry about that. This is a free world. You are entitled to feel, behave, choose, and decide as you wish, and I am not going to try to decide for you. I'm not going to sway for you. I'm not going to try to persuade for you. That is entirely up to you. The ball is in your court. The torch is in your hand. The power rests within you and within them. And all I can do is understand that my best solution is to have my own internal compass, my own internal self-reflection, my own internal locus of control, and do and feel and behave and choose and decide in what makes me comfortable, which is surrounded around my truth, my talents, my desires, what really has, been part of me, which has been on a detour through this relationship. And unbeknownst to me, and I unequivocally forgive myself for having a momentary lapse of judgment in seeking this external validation through these means and methodology. Whether it was my texting behavior, whether it was my dress behavior, whether it was my image behavior, whatever it is, all that I had done to try to control the feelings, opinions, decisions, and choices of others through those means, I'm letting go of those now 100%. I'm no longer directing my life based on the reactions or trying to patch the relationship or heal the life of others in terms of trying to settle the score of what is going on in their life or how they're trying to pit it against me. In other words, I'm no longer trying to, convince others of my truth. I'm no longer trying to convince, explain, and justify myself as to why, I need what I need, why I want what I want, who I am. If they can't see me through the eyes of truth, then they don't deserve to look upon me. If they don't listen to me with ears of truth, then they don't deserve to listen to me. If they can't feel me with empathy and honesty, then they don't deserve to hold my hand. They don't deserve to be, in my inner circle. They don't deserve me at this time, and so it is, and that is okay. Amen. And I release them. You just let it go, like water running off your hands. You're not trying to cup it. You're not trying to get a cup. You just let them go. You let them flow away, and you do this with confidence and self-valuation, knowing that your truth is the true power, because and that is based on an internal locus of control. We've been talking about this for the longest, but we always need to go back and circle back to these very, very important basic truths and realize perhaps where you had gone a little bit astray, where you had gone wrong, where you had your flawed thinking, because that is where the issue is. It is to understand that you are the driver of your emotions. You have control. You have control over where your eyes, your ears, your heart focuses on. And so that is where you need to begin to learn to understand what boundaries are, to understand what standards are, to understand what positive orderly direction thinking is versus this negative orderly direction thinking, feeling where, your boundaries are wiped out, you're living in an intimidation, fear-based state, is to say, I'm not, participating in this game anymore. Boom, that is a boundary. I'm not listening to that negative talk. Boom, that is a boundary. I'm not trying to, prove my innocence, my goodness, my worth to this person. Boom, that is a boundary. These are all the subconscious decisions that once you make, you begin to free up your subconscious power to be able to assist you, to direct you to actually your best life, your best self, where the universe begins to become your solution. It begins to put success in your path. You begin to have solutions in your inbox. You begin to think, feel, and behave on the right decisions. It's the what if I did this? Maybe I should do that. You see an interesting email. You see an interesting storefront. You see an interesting ad, something that really is attractive to you and something you've always wanted to do. Travel, create something, paint, become a writer, get employed in a specific industry. All this is like, it all frees up your subconscious energy, and that's really where we want to get your solution. Because once you have that internal locus of control, and you come at them with a very relaxed body, which oftentimes you are not used to living in, feeling in, behaving, and choosing and deciding from. You're always choosing and coming from this reactive state. once you're on that different energetic level, then you can begin to develop the solutions and come in touch with really what you should be doing for your best and highest good. In other words, all of a sudden, when you declare the boundaries and the standards, your subconscious mind begins to free up the energy. We think 90 to 70 thoughts every single day, and Dr. Joe Dispenza, as he states, 90 to 95% of those are the same as thought the day before. So we want to really sort of understand those facts and be able to engage and open up and expand that 5, 10%, 15%, 20%. In other words, so we're thinking newer thoughts, feeling newer emotions, feeling that power, and feeling the aha moments where then the law of attraction is starting to attract and bring to you the solutions, actually what you are seeking. So you're stronger, you're emotionally stronger, you're supporting your emotional needs, you're supporting your physical needs, you're supporting your physical nutrition, your emotional nutrition, your spiritual nutrition. Your life is now becoming more and more whole, more focused, stronger, more refined. In other words, more defined by your boundaries and standards, which gives you more of a sense of absolute certainty and self-esteem. It's not false bravado or confidence or show-offy. It is more of an internal guttural sense of I am. I am. And whether you feel primal, whether you feel, just I am. It's very, very simple, clear, and declarative. And that's the state you need to return to, kind of your pure, unadulterated state after this triangulation. After you've been caught up in all the engineered chaos, is to say, no more chaos. Chaos, don't live here anymore. I'm clearing the path for myself. Now, it doesn't matter if I don't think I'm strong enough, pretty enough, tall enough, short enough, white enough, black enough. My fingernails are too short, my fingernails are too long, my feet are too big, my feet are too small. Whatever it is, all the excuses that you're going, throw them out the window. Those are nothing but defense mechanisms, falsely created, false evidence appearing real, created beliefs in order to keep you small. Falsely created self-limiting beliefs which are keeping you in that stuck state. You have created the feelings, the thoughts, the behaviors, the choices, and the decisions that have brought you to that too small, I'm inferior state. In other words, you had become vulnerable and paid attention to that external locus of control. This person, unbeknownst to you, you were sucked into that tornado of the covert narcissist. You had acquiesced to the triangulation. You had acquiesced or fallen prey to or fallen down to or fallen vulnerable to these tactics, to this feeling that I must, in order for me to thrive, in order for me to survive, I must engage in this adulation or acquiescing to this person. In other words, to take, almost allow them to take control of my life for me because I feel so out of control. It's to say this, but it is also to admit that, the whole double whammy is that when you fall into these enabling relationships with the covert narcissist, oftentimes because your life is out of control, or you met them at a vulnerable time and you needed them, in other words, you engaged in the codependent adulation relationship in order to keep a sort of buffer, or a sense of security in your life, but then it actually ends up doing quite the opposite. It ends up, keeping your life out of control. You basically make a message to yourself, I don't have what it takes to control my life. I don't have what it takes to become employed. I don't have what it takes to be happy. I don't have what it takes. All of these self-limiting beliefs are then reinforced when you stay in that I am too afraid state, where an I am not comfortable state, I am self-conscious state. You are keeping yourself, your subconscious mind will do what you give it directives to do. So if you tell yourself to be afraid, to be impaired, to be controlled, to not feel good enough, well, then you will definitely attract opportunities that will reinforce this command. So you will then, people oftentimes wonder why they have a difficult time then sort of getting their life back on track, is because you are not used to what boundaries feel like. You're not used to having that self-valuation to say, you know what, it's time for me to go to sleep now. It's time for me to stop eating now. It's time for me to stop worrying now. It's time for me to stop being angry. It's time for me to stop being fearful. So those are the words of boundary creation. Those are the statements that you need to make to yourself, your internal dialogue, that you need to actually give yourself effort. You need to give effort to yourself. Effort in this experience is love. Love meaning unconditional positive self-regard, affection, kindness, forgiveness. It's having a relationship with what's going on inside. That is the best relationship you can ever embark on in this life. Yes, there, of course, and it doesn't mean to the exclusion of others, but once you have that relationship with self, which is what the Recovery Journal is all about introducing yourself to yourself, that internal locus of control, is really what about that relationship. So you need to have that relationship within, the kindness, the affection, the forgiveness, the understanding, the self-empathy, where it's saying, you know, wow, you have been through a whirlwind with this. Let's get you up and fly right. You know, let's get you really sort of aligned here. Let's let go of all that engineered chaos, the fear, the negative orderly direction, thinking, feeling, and behaving, and let's, you know, get into a whole change of energy. That is going nowhere fast. It's going nowhere slow. It's going, you know, nowhere now. It's going nowhere in the future. Let's just make a boundary. So you need to get used to the boundary declaration and knowing what that feels like, what it sounds like. I'm no longer dressing this way. I'm no longer listening to this music. I'm no longer eating these foods. I'm no longer, engaging in this self-flagellating or self-destructive behavior. That is stopping now. So you need to come into a neutral state, and saying, okay, I had understood that part of me felt that I had to be in a reactive or reactive state. In other words, to survive. So it's to understand that the dynamics of how that reptilian brain works, which is based on fear. So it's to come out of that reptilian limbic brain that's always in a highly reactive sort of, I have to be, fit in with this crowd. I have to fit in with that crowd. I have to acquiesce to this person. I have to be reactive. I have to, these are the standards and the values of this society, this community, this group, etc. And I have to conform to their standards. So again, that's the external locus of control. I want you to understand how this works in your life and how it throws you off base, how it throws you off center, how it throws you out of your power. Peace and harmony. I've never experienced my truth before. I've never experienced self-esteem. I've never experienced my own life. Well, amen, sister or brother. Let's go. It's time to do this. So it's to say I'm exiting the fear. I'm exiting that limbic brain. I'm getting out of that sort of, that external conformity to that. And I'm saying, okay, the standards, the values, the boundaries are inside. Everything is right here. Wow, this really contradicts what I've ever known. Well, here we go. Aha, that's an aha moment. This is what we call an energy shift. It's called an awakening and an understanding of where that the power resides within you. Well, no one has ever told me this before. This is completely new. Okay, well, maybe that's why you're here. Maybe that's why you found the channel. Maybe that's why you're listening to this today. Because you need to understand, embrace, and accept that the power is within you. You literally do have power. Well, I've never experienced this. Well, how about we experience this, then moving forward? So you can experience the power of attraction. You can experience the power of self-acceptance. You can experience the power of self-love, self-forgiveness. You can experience and manifest the good, the beautiful, the abundance in life. That can be yours. So in other words, that which you want through negative early direction thinking, it's actually inside. So we need to have a switch of focus. It's to understand that, and then give yourself the mirroring and the value and the validation that was not obtained in that whole cycle of the negative early direction thinking. Yes, this can go on for decades. It can go on for years, months, an entire lifetime. Okay, but it's never too late to stop. It's never too late to say enough is enough. I understand it now, and I am free. And I am me, and there's no more fear, obligation, and guilt. When that comes up, I'm going to, push it aside to the negative early direction thinking and understand that those states disempower me, so they have no place, really to reside within my life. It's to understand, how you had become so reactive, and to stop that now, and to understand that all that reactiveness, whether it's the drinking to feel cool, the smoking, the drugging to feel cool, to fit in with that negative, going nowhere, it's to let go of that now. It's to say, aha, I understand how that element had derailed me, and it's time to get back on some new tracks. Positive, orderly direction thinking, actually, giving me the results, the relationships, the feelings, the experiences. My life is going places, feeling that as experienced when you're engaged in the boundary creation and the standard creation, and becoming highly sensitive to that and keeping that as your focus. And we're going to zoom in and focus in on other videos on how to really to develop that. So even though it's new, you can become more comfortable being uncomfortable and living an empowered life, saying, I am, now that I'm no longer afraid, I am pursuing this now. And then list 1 through 10. Now that I'm no longer being affected by the smear campaign and the judgment of others, I am really going to pursue and become. List 1 through 10. Now that I'm no longer reactive, I find that I can become more peaceful and more empowered when I. And list 1 through 20. And these can be as simple as sitting and relaxing, calming down, lighting a candle, putting on soft music, doing my recovery journal, articulating my interests, getting an appointment book, following up on these, writing things down. These are all